What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So today we're going to be talking about the approach of Gotham Knights. We're going to be, in a sense, for those of us that are Arkham fans, we're going to be looking very carefully at this game and kind of trying to see if we can zoom in and make our Arkham bias sort of wane a little bit or fade for, a short period of time, and looking at the approach that Gotham Knights is taking for its game. It's a very different approach to a superhero game. It's not comparable to many other games, even though you can find strands of other games in it. And I don't know how all of this came about. We can put all kinds of theories and hypotheses out here. We could even, one of my crazy theories and hypotheses is that I believe that this game was going to be a game that was comparable to Marvel's Avengers. I think it was, but at some point Marvel's Avengers showed everyone exactly what not to do, and then a lot of that was changed. One of the things that you probably could see is it seemed like the game was going to be a place where you could farm skins and all of that stuff, and possibly open up the room for monetization on stores and everything. And I think they did a big, huge 360 on those systems. This is just my thinking anyways. I'm not saying it's definitive, but you can see that Warner Brothers is not averse to putting monetization in their games, even though they may feign, monetization, yada, 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 from Middle-earth Shadow of War. They don't care. They're putting it in Hogwarts Legacy, which is a single-player game, whereas they're not putting it in a co-op game. That kind of tells me that there was probably an instance or a world or a dimension where this was thought about. But somehow, some way, I think we in the DC community, we are fortunate to have had Avengers show up first. So they took one for us. So we want to thank the Avengers game for helping show us, or helping at least preserve some kind of, I would say, baseline solid aspect to not having microtransactions fill this game, because I think that's possibly where this game was going to head to. Now, keep this in mind as well, that the so-called microtransactions that I say this game is free of is technically not a thing. There are some microtransactions, and I have to make sure that I point this out. If you guys, are looking at that visionary pack, it's going to have the Jim Lee transmog, but it's a very expensive transmog. I mean, it's insanely pricey. I look at the comparison on Steam, and that's where I kind of know, because that's the metric that I'm going to go with. For some, you're buying the game on console, which, man, I don't see how that console price can be justified. If I want to buy my console version, I might have to wait. I remember yesterday sitting on my Xbox store, and I just could not click purchase. I just could not do it. I mean, because I already bought myself a copy here on PC. The base copy on PC is $59.99, yet the deluxe edition is $79.99. It is a $20 increase in price for a deluxe edition that has something of which I know not, basically a transmog and a few other items. And so I don't necessarily see that, in regard to that being a $20 price increase. And so this is why I'm saying that it appears to me that they probably looked around and said, man, this is probably one way to cash in on something extra. But that is by the wayside. At least they've said that there will be no microtransactions in the game. Basically, maybe after you start the game, because they didn't say there will be no microtransactions in your purchase of the game. I guess you can technically chalk it up to that if that's how we're going to go with the semantics. But the entire approach of this game is going to be different. We already see that the game seems to have a gear and a mod-based focus. We're going to be changing our approach to how we play the game. Compared to the Arkham games, you just went in there for raw gameplay. You went in there, you punched baddies, you made your way through the game, and you got XP, you leveled up your gadgets, you leveled up some of your skill approaches, and you were a beast. There was nothing that could touch you at some point. But in the case of Gotham Knights, it appears to me that, your Nightwing or Dick Grayson is going to be another kind of Nightwing or Dick Grayson. You're not just going to go in there and, eventually start being awesome after a while. You're going to, go into the game and start off kind of strong in a sense, and then eventually kind of make your way down the lane in, how your character is going to be. This is something that the developers actually did say. You're not going to start the game out like traditional RPGs where you're kind of weak. You're going to start the game on a really strong footing. So that's going to be interesting to see. I honestly, can't fathom how they, designed this for this to have some longevity. Another thing too is I know we've, for the longest time spoken about Gotham Knights, possibly having a lot of content, being a really big game. But I need to go ahead and clarify this because that might be arbitrary, because a big game could be big maybe in size and map and world, but it may not necessarily be big as in, other components and depth. And now I don't necessarily know how to weigh stuff like this. Maybe by the size of the files of the game, you could tell if the game is going to be big or whatever it is, but that's not really a good metric to use. So I guess that's also another thing that we'd have to see. So we'll have to be asking ourselves when we start playing the game, how big is this game actually? How much depth is this game going to provide? And so this is another approach that we're going to be taking towards the game. In the Arkham games, we understood that, yes, it was a single player game. You had that closed loop. When you finished and you beat the game, that was it. There was nothing else that you were going to be doing or dealing with. That was kind of the final way things went. But in this game, it seems to me that the developers are probably in a position where they have an open-ended system that they can continue to extend and expand upon. So I guess that's probably where we are in those two facets. So we're looking at the game that has an approach where it seems like it dialed back on some of its core tenets in a sense. So that's what makes it number one unique. And then we're looking at a game where its size is in a sense not known because it's taken a different approach from most superhero games. And at the same time, we also have to pay very close attention to gameplay. Gameplay for this game is going to be very different. It is adding in some aspects that have not been traditional to, say, other Batman games. Now, yes, you can fight, brawl, do the same old beat 'em up superhero aspects in a story linear driven mission structure, be it for main quests or for villain quests. And you can also do side activities as well, which is something that we saw in Batman Arkham Origins. These things were generating all over the place as you're gliding around. There'll be a police scanner that says, there's a crime going on here, and you can go in there, beat bad guys and all that stuff. And here in Gotham Knights, it's interesting because they're not only adding, so-called all of this crime, random crime aspects that are going to be generating, thereby leading to more and more encounters. It is different from the Arkham games where whatever, crimes or activities that you had at the end game, they were, in a sense, predetermined. The developers had already predetermined that these were the exact encounters that they wanted you to have. And once you encountered all of them, the only thing that was randomly generating in, say, the case of Batman Arkham Knight were just the thugs on the street. They just continued to be there. And I think once you beat all, 240% of the game, I think the entire game pretty much just puts you in a very interesting, game state change where it's snowing and all of that stuff. But it's not going to be the case in, Gotham Knights. Gotham Knights is going to have a living world system where you're going to continue to be able to come back if you want to. If you want to go in there and beat up bad guys, you can go in there and beat up bad guys. But the interesting thing, too, is you're also going to be able to replay missions, I think, the way that they have it set up. So one thing that the developer said, and I wouldn't say I've confirmed this, but I think I suspect this, is they mentioned in one of their interviews that if you are in a position where you play co-op with somebody, right, and they've progressed through a specific area or a specific progress or mission or whatever in their game, and you decide to go back to your Gotham, which is your world, and you want to play that also one more time, there is room for you to be able to do that. The game would actually ask you, do you want to go back and play this again? And you can say yes or no. So I don't know if that's one way the game is going to work, where it allows for you to basically replay specific aspects of the game. This is just me being suspicious, but we do know for sure that if you played a mission in co-op with someone, you can still go back and play it for yourself. So these are some of the aspects of Gotham Knights that I strongly believe, will need some changes in terms of our concept and the way we look at things. And I'm in a position to say, it will be one of those really slow adaptations on my part. Yes, I'm excited for the game in some aspects, but I'm going to be taking my time to kind of like visualize exactly what the cohesive message and structure of this game is, and eventually maybe make my judgment as the game is released. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section as to how you see these systems, how you think you're going to basically approach them from your own perspective, and how the game is appealing to you so far. So thanks for watching the video. I appreciate you guys' time and audience. Hopefully we'll talk pretty soon. Peace out.